All right, for those of you logging on, we're here for the 41st Street and Beaver Avenue intersection improvements. I apologize for the few minutes delay here. We had to get everyone loaded up, and I got myself out of the meeting, so I had to log back in. So hopefully you're all seeing my screen here. My name is Steve Neighbor. I'm Des Moines City Engineer and Des Moines resident. I've got a number of team members with me, but this is a public information meeting on the 41st Street and Beaver Avenue intersection improvements. I also see we've got Councilman Coleman on. Councilman Coleman, say hi to everyone. Have you got a chance? Yeah.
Yeah, just thanks, Steve. We have a great team of professionals at the city, and engineering and our streets team are our tops. Thank you all for joining us. I value the innovation the team is doing to get this message out to as many people as possible at the same time, and letting you do it from home or your computer. I hope you find this to be useful. I also saw that Mayor Bozen is on the call, and I want to thank her for the support of getting this project done. It's been a long time coming, and the neighborhood associations that meet at this intersection, Drake and Waveland Park and Beaverdale, have all looked for a safe solution for a long time. So happy to watch it be delivered this building season. So thank you for joining, and I'll look forward to the presentation.
Yeah. Thank you so much, Councilman Coleman, and thank you for your leadership and support, as well as Mayor Bozen. Again, excited to talk about this safety project, and in fact, just to start it off real quick, I'm going to give along with Matt Rodemacher, our project engineer, we're going to give a quick presentation and then open up for questions. When we talk about safety, this project actually, we were successful in working with the DOT and securing $450,000 for to help fund this project. The project total is about 546,000, but 450,000 of that is DOT money for safety improvements the state allocates. So and so that's how the project is being funded. And again, this is talking about 41st and Beaver. I did want to get some instructions here on the meeting. We are doing this by Zoom because this is kind of more of it impacts a lot of people, and it's a heavily traveled intersection, and this way, if you do know folks that maybe couldn't attend tonight, we are recording this. So we're recording this, so this will be posted on our webpage, so folks could watch it later, as if they were not able to attend tonight. And so it is a Zoom meeting, so hopefully you see a menu bar, kind of like the one that I've got the red arrow pointing to. Since we have a lot of people on here, we have about 50 people attending, which is great. That we ask that when you have questions that you raise your hand, and then we'll work through and call on folks as in order that they've raised their hands. But again, and if you're on a phone, I'm not seeing anyone right now that's just calling in. But if you were calling in just on a regular phone, you can press *9, and that's a way to raise your hand. And then if you were to mute or unmute, you press *6. But otherwise, if you're on a smartphone or a computer, laptop of some sort, you would hopefully see a menu bar that looks something like what you see on the screen, and you can just click on the raise hand icon right there as well. So, and like I said, this meeting is being recorded and we'll post on the website. I do always want to point out, especially since we have a lot of people here tonight, that if you're ever curious about a city project, you go right on just the main page, dsm.city. It's the main front page. If you go down toward the bottom of it, there's a thing called Projects Map. And so if you just click on that Projects Map icon, the Projects Map icon will take you to a page that looks like this. It will take you to a map, and then you can click on the icon in the area of the map. And in this case, that we selected here, the 41st and Beaver Avenue intersection improvements. It kind of gives you a little bit of information about that. So it's kind of an easy way to find information about city projects, and kind of tells you there what work can begin in the spring, in the fall. We got the contractor's name on there. And actually, if you were to scroll, I didn't want to scroll down. If you were able to scroll down in this little box, which you would if you open up the map, it would also, even more importantly, give you the direct contact of the project engineer for this project. And so So give you a direct contact of who to call if you have questions. And so in this case, we'll show it up later in the presentation, but it's going to be Matt Rodemacher is our project engineer on this. So that's our projects map. And that feel free to use that for other city projects around there. And again, it is city projects. It does not have some of the work done by private developments, but it does have all the city funded city projects. So a little bit of background, we actually did a traffic study back in 2018. As Councilman Cohen, it's been a long time coming. We were able to successfully secure state funding for probably about 80% of this project to construct it. And so now that we got the funding in place, we can move forward. But the study is again looking at Beaver and 41st, which is currently a two-way stop control intersection where Beaver Avenue is a free flow and 41st Street needs to stop. And as you're familiar with the intersection, it's a skewed intersection geometry. And that was really a lot of the concerns that started this. It does have some crash history. I think we had, if we had in the 10-year period, we had 21 crashes, unfortunately, result in injuries. The DOT has said the DOT ranks intersections that are functionally classified as collectors or above, so higher volume intersections like this throughout the whole state. And the DOT has ranked this intersection as having a high potential for crash reduction. So what that means is the DOT says, if we make improvements to this intersection, there's a high potential we could reduce the amount of crashes that are happening here. And so because the DOT ranks it high, they were agreeable to help fund these safety improvements. And so, like I said, in about a 10-year period, there were about 21 crashes resulting in injuries, unfortunately, at this intersection. Users have complained, understandably so, that it's difficult. For example, it's difficult to determine if motorists are southbound vehicles will be turning right or essentially continuing straight on 41st, or will they continue traveling on Beaver? And so that's kind of some, obviously when we have an skewed intersection, it can cause confusion, and so that's been the complaints for all those that use the intersection. Okay. And again, this is kind of just a summary. Again, these are the graphics showing you kind of some different angles of the intersections. You can see why it's understandable that folks sometimes have that confusion, right? There's the upper right is a car that's sitting on 41st, and so it can be difficult to understand that the southbound cars are going to stay going straight heading south on 41st, or they're going to stay heading southeast on Beaver Avenue. So we did look at a number of alternatives. A traffic signal would not be warranted based on the volumes at this intersection. A roundabout, from an operational standpoint, doesn't work because when we model it, the traffic backs up into the Franklin Avenue intersection to the north, and so we did look at some options on how to deal with this, and ultimately come up with the best or the recommended solution is to realign the intersection as a more conventional intersection. So in this case, creating that 90-degree angle when you're on 41st Street, it's more like a conventional intersection. And you can see when vehicles are traveling southbound or southeastbound on Beaver Avenue, they would make a right-hand turn using their indication and turn as a right turn onto 41st rather than just going straight. And so it's creating it more of a right angle intersection. So, and again, this has been proven to be successful across the city. We've done projects where we've kind of realigned access points to make it more, to improve visibility, and been successful in reducing crashes. And so this has ultimately been determined to be the recommended solution to move forward. And so this graphic on the screen shows what the project will look like. So. And I'm going to turn it over to Matt Rodemacher. Are you available to talk on the stage?
Yep, I'm here, Steve.
Awesome.
All right. Thank you, Steve. Good evening, everyone. I just wanted a quick run through how we're going to go about building this thing. Essentially, we broke this into 5 stages in order to minimize impact to the public, minimize access restrictions. A quick overview here of what the 5 stages are, and we'll just do a quick run through of what each of these stages consist of and what you can expect during that time. So stage 1, this is gonna be right off the bat. This will require closing 41st Street from Beaver South to Forest Avenue. At this time, we'll have a detour sign to direct traffic using Forest to 48th Street to Franklin Avenue. Beaver Avenue will be unimpacted throughout stage 1. And this work here will be reconstructing everything in blue, which is the realigned intersection sidewalks and drive approaches. This is going to maintain access for the residents that are immediately adjacent to the project coming in from the north, and we'll have access restricted right there on the north end of Northwest Drive if you were to come in from the south. So, next slide, please.
Matt, just to buzz real quick, is there at any point during construction, we're maintaining access to the businesses and folks along here at all times? Is that correct? I mean, no matter what stage is that?
Yes, access will be obviously modified from how it currently is used, but yes. So like in this case, we'll have signs basically right where the existing 41st Street connects with Beaver. We'll have some barricades there, and they'll be staggered such that the residents and property owners that are immediately south of there will still be able to access their driveways throughout this.
Okay, so the businesses will have access the entire duration of the project, is essentially. Okay.
Stage 2, this will be same kind of detour setup. 41st still being detoured, Beaver still unimpacted, and we'll be working on the 3 driveways there for 1732, 1800 and 1804. So this is going to be a pretty quick phase. It's about 2 weeks, about 1 week of that's actual hard work going on, and about a week of concrete cure time. So during this time, the 3 driveways that are impacted will have access up to park in front of their drive approaches that were just poured there on the newly aligned 41st Street. And you'll be able to access your home from there. Snookies and the properties to the north will still have their driveways unimpacted at this time. And again, Beaver Avenue will be flowing as usual. Stage 3, this is where we start getting into some of the business drives. The southern driveway to Snookies at this time will be being reconstructed. So we'll have to push, we'll have a lane diversion on Beaver. It'll still be fully open to traffic. You'll just have some head-to-head traffic there with some delineators. Local traffic will be accessing from the south for all of those 3 residents that we just redid drives. They'll be able to pull into their driveway at that time. And while Snookies has the southern driveway under construction, we'll keep the north driveway unimpacted. However, we will have a temporary drive access going out the backside of the property, the western side of Snookies, which will go through the church parking lot and up 42nd Street to Franklin Avenue. So that'll be kind of an auxiliary exit point for customers there at Snookies. This again is about a 2-week time period with 10 or so days of construction and about a week of concrete cure. Stage 4, very similar to traffic setup. The difference here is we're flipping. The new southern driveway to Snookies will be open at this time. The northern driveway to Snookies will be reconstructed. And again, we'll have the same auxiliary access on the south side of Snookies. So that'll give some patrons an easier time to not have to turn around and try to get out the same drive. They can just come out through the parking lot area. We'll have a temporary surface driveway for customers to get out to the parking lot, up 42nd Street and out to Franklin Avenue. And again, about the same time frame, about 2 weeks or so. And the final stage, stage 5, this will be the one stage that we do impact traffic on Beaver Avenue. This will be about a 2-day operation. What we're going to be doing at this time is doing a mill and overlay of Beaver Avenue. So this will be kind of the final touch to put a ribbon on the project, get everything put back, get pavement markings down. And Again, during this time, we'll have access on the backside of Franklin Avenue, or coming off Franklin Avenue to 42nd and into the backside of Snooki's. And residents, again, will be coming from the south up 41st Street to access their properties. And so this will be the one time that we do a Beaver Avenue close and the detour setup, which will be really similar to what we had, this same detour route essentially for 41st Street. It's going to be directing traffic over to Forest Avenue to 48th to Franklin. And again, about a 2-day process or so. Price Chopper will still have access to their southeasternmost driveway coming off of Beaver, and then as well as their northern driveway on Franklin Avenue. These next couple slides are just an overview showing you the detour routes. So traffic coming from the north will be Franklin over to 48th to Forest. Anyone come from the south will be Forest to 48th to Franklin. So next slide is going to show you essentially the same thing, which is the Beaver Avenue detour. It's just going to be kicking it a block further east, or a couple blocks east to right where Beaver comes in and intersects with Forest. So again, this detour route would be about a 2-day occurrence for that overlay. So that is essentially how the project's going to run. In general, it's going to be a few months, 3 to 4 months of construction when you put it all together, with work starting this spring. We don't have a hard time start time yet from the contractor, but he's mentioned something, or he's thinking late March or early April. So this is something that'll be coming up in the next month. We will have digital message boards out there a week in advance, so everyone is aware that the road and project will be starting up, and we'll have the project completed with all the detours cleaned up and taken traffic control removed by late this fall. And that is going to be a fairly quick construction project, and I'd be happy to open up the questions for anyone.
All right, so as I mentioned, if you could raise your hand, we'll start off with questions. We have Leslie Hunter. Leslie, if you could unmute yourself, please.
Hi
Yep,
there,
there you go.
I'm calling from Snooki's Malt Shop.
Yep.
So I guess our big concern is how it's going to impact the business. We'll be opening the end of March. Will you guys be in contact with us when these stages are about ready to change, so we'll be able to tell our customers what's coming up?
Absolutely. Yep. That's something I think that it'll be kind of visually aware of what's coming up next, because like I said, kind of between some of these stages, there is a little bit of, it looks like a lull, but it's more of there's some time that needs to be factored in before we can put traffic on fresh concrete. So we'll make sure that you're kept in the loop. I do have your contact information. But other than that, yeah, it should be, we'll have good communication throughout. We'll have door hangers if anything goes, if any plans change, but it's going to be a pretty straightforward through these 5 phases. And if there's ever questions, you have my number, and please don't hesitate to call.
Well, I do have one more question. It's more of a request, and this may be something Chris might be able to help us with, and with the DOT, with the recent traffic mishaps on Beaver Avenue, and maybe not mishaps, but people driving into businesses. It makes us, and we've always been pretty, I guess, worried about our customers sitting out front. It's always just, our worst nightmare is somebody driving, missing the road and plowing into our customers. Is there any way when they're doing this road work to put maybe some concrete ballast along the curb there to prevent that?
Leslie, we wouldn't be able to put, we aren't able to put hard fixed objects along the curb, but I mean, that would be, I guess that's where as we work the project, maybe that's something we could have a conversation with you and the ownership about what happens with the space. Let's see if I can try and find an exhibit that shows it. That the space between the new sidewalk and the restaurant there, that's formerly right away. Anything could be done on private property, I guess, essentially, of that nature. I've seen property owners put fixed objects on their private property. Now, this is still public right away at this time, but that's something we could discuss.
Right, because I mean, we're thinking about, we've been waiting for this project so we can redo our patio up front. So,
Mhm.
that's something we had talked about, getting some more safety measures in there. But if I guess we would want to know what is the right of way where we can pour things, or if that would be something that the city or DOT could do.
Yeah. Right. Currently, the right of way would follow kind of the the back of the existing sidewalk. We would not be allowed to put, uh, say, bollards or fixed objects in the right of way. But if say that right of way were sold and conveyed and was no longer public right of way, then certainly if the right of way line changed to the new back of sidewalk, then that would become private property, and then that's where it kind of opens up the door for you all as the adjacent owner if you were interested to buy it.
Okay, so you're saying there's a chance I could get it. Okay.
Yeah, Leslie, I think everybody at the city, while we're not spending money to improve a private business, we do know that our residents are there and there are
Mhm.
safety concerns. And I hope there is a chance that the excess property that we're going to have from this project could become the ownership of Snookies, which would allow you to create some barriers further from your existing patio.
Yeah.
But it's probably not a sell that we can negotiate today in front of 56 people, but it is something that Steve can start working with you on
Okay.
as that happens. But I see the long-term solution being something like that, but the short-term solution, maybe one of our traffic experts can come out and at least give some advice on how to keep our residents safe when they're walking through this area or sitting in this area during construction.
That would be great. We'd really appreciate that.
Excellent. Thank you, Leslie.
Thank you.
Yep. Leslie, I'm gonna just as a circle back, I'm gonna put this in the notes, and then we'll have our real estate folks and then Matt Rademacher touch base with you on that property, if you will.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Okay, I see next is Mike Cooper. Mike.
Yeah, Mike Cooper. I'm at 1800 41st Street. I have a question with the existing sidewalk that runs parallel to 41st as it exists today. What is the plan with that sidewalk?
That sidewalk will be removed and sodded, so that'll become lawn after it's all done.
Okay. I guess my concern there is if we get a lot of pedestrian traffic going to Snookies and going to pedestrian traffic in general. My concern would be people tracking through our yard and then that being a liability on our part with folks walking across or cutting across our yard to get to Snookies. So that was just a concern of mine.
I think I appreciate that, Mike. I'm gonna put in the notes. I think this is kind of where we, as the project progresses, what happens with the space, right? I mean, we've actually, even our own council members have asked about tree plantings or other things that could be done with the green space to, what can be done with it. And I guess the hope is to try and create it like it's more a conventional intersection. And I know it's hard because people have habits, right, and they're used to just walking straight north, but ultimately the goal would be to develop that habit that they just follow the sidewalk and it's kind of like a conventional intersection. But certainly there's been a lot of discussion on what could be with the green space, and maybe there's things that could be done with tree plantings and stuff to try and help enhance that area. So and help combat with your concern, right? I mean, if there's trees and stuff that would kind of help encourage people to stay on the sidewalks and not just cut diagonally through which will eventually be the new yards, right?
And it's I have one other question. It's my understanding that the utility poles will stay where they are on that on the west side of 41st Street. Is that correct?
There are going to be some utility pole adjustments on the west side, as well as on the east side. I don't have those shown here. I can happily walk through them with you after this at another time. But there are going to be, so like there's the one next pretty close to your property. That one's actually going to be shifted slightly closer to the new sidewalk and a new pole set over there for a street light. So there are going to be some adjustments, moving some of those back further. A couple of them are in conflict with the improvements. So
Okay,
not 100% staying in spot, no.
cool. All right, thank you.
Yep.
Thank you, Mike. Okay, next I have Dave Buziak. Is that how you pronounce it? Fine.
Close enough. I've been called worse. Two quick questions. If I'm sitting at the stop sign on 41st northbound, will the southbound traffic coming at me be in 2 lanes or 1? In other words, will the southbound traffic that's going to turn right on 41st, am I just going to be trusting their blinker, or are they going to have their own lane that I can see that they're clearly turning right? Then the second question is, the other part of this, the fun of this intersection is people turning out of that more northern entrance right there on the curb from Price Chopper. Is there a way to make that right turn only, sort of like there are signs on the property at Fairway that you can only turn right onto 41st Place? Because turning left there adds another fun dimension.
Great questions, Dave. And the first one, Dave, there is not a dedicated right turn lane for folks on Beaver. So you're correct. You would need to, one, they would have to use they should use their indication, and two, so when you're stopped at 41st, you'd either need to look for their indication and also that they slow down and are ready to make the turning movement. But there is not a separate right turn lane for those vehicles. And the challenge is one, not being warranted, and two, the wider and more lanes we make it, then actually, believe it or not, the more challenging it is for folks to sometimes to navigate, right? There could be a right turning vehicle and then another vehicle behind it. So when we get multiple lanes, sometimes we actually see an increase in crashes. The question on the Price Chopper is a good one, Matt. I don't know that our traffic folks, certainly if that site redeveloped, that would be something that we would like to address that intersection. And in fact, even our own council members, Councilman Coleman, had brought up the challenges of the location of that intersection as it relates to the rest of the intersection, and so, but there's not currently a proponent to make it a right in, right out. I don't know, Matt, if you've anything to add to that, or.
No, everything you said is correct. There's not a current plan. And it is tough when it's an existing business with existing operations. But like Steve said, when things change, that always gives an opportunity to change our traffic structures as well, or our traffic flows.
So that's the whole trying to align this, the Snookies intersect a driveway with across from it. So it kind of creates that intersection concept of the driveway. So you're looking straight across, and then hopefully realigning the intersection and lessening the pavement will help. But certainly, to answer your question, if there was a redevelopment of the site, we would be looking to make improvements with the driveway and access points. So,
Thank you.
yeah, thank you, Dave. Okay. Well, Amy Scott. What? Oh, sorry, you had your hand up, but no, I don't see it. I apologize. Oh, there we go. Amy Scott, I see your hand.
Yeah, so I walk my dogs through this area quite often. And I don't see any improvement here.
Okay.
Especially in terms of having to trust someone's blinker. That you have not addressed that ambiguity at all with this. So and so I'm thinking of in Urbandale, they have 70th Street. It's the same scenario that we have. And then I'm thinking of what they did to 41st down by University, where they put a concrete divider to, make it they've done just things with putting concrete dividers down the middle of along a lane divider to force people to behave properly in their vehicles. Why is that not an option somehow here with the existing setup? So if someone is staying in that right lane, they have to turn right onto Beaver from 41st. So I guess I'm seeing all these little, like I live on 46th, and what they have done on University and 46th, I can't access 46th Street directly from Polk Boulevard anymore. I have to go over, turn on to 45th, so there's been some blocking done for traffic patterns just using concrete low dividers to force people to stay in certain lanes. And why is that not an option without all this other machination?
So, Amy, I appreciate the comments and questions. The point of realigning is all about visibility and defining as much predictability. And so the issue with the 41st is that there actually is a pretty high volume of traffic on 41st. I think it was, and I'm not sure if any of our traffic folks are on. I'd have to look at the list, but it was in the thousands of vehicles. So we could not just close 41st or restrict it. Well, down on University at 47th Street, which is just east of Polk Boulevard, that intersection was so close to Polk Boulevard that we couldn't even create, we had to restrict the access points to try and create that conventional intersection, not only to better define how traffic functions, but also make it more palatable for pedestrians. And in this case, the pedestrian crossing from if you were to cross, say you were walking along Beaver, and then you wanted to continue going northwest, say to Snookies, you were crossing a much wider stretch of pavement. I think we're cutting it in half essentially from what it is, going from 30 feet to 55. I think it was 55 to 30 feet. So it's a shorter crossing. We couldn't due to the traffic volumes, restrict access to 41st like we did on 47th, where it's a right in, right out, just because of the volume of traffic that used 41st in that case. So, and I apologize, and I've written down the 70th Street in Urbandale, but I'm not quite familiar with that intersection. And then the other things we've done with like the over by 41st, the medians, we do have on University where we had pedestrian refuge islands to help pedestrians cross University. In this case, we don't have a pedestrian refuge island on Beaver because we're not seeing the volumes of pedestrians crossing. Say, for example, between the Price Chopper and on the west side of the road to warrant that. So in this case, folks would really ideally go to Franklin.
Well, good luck.
Thank you. Okay, Jim Tigler. I apologize if I pronounced it wrong, Jim. Jim, I see you got your hand up. I don't know if we could get you to unmute and we can. There you go.
Yes, this is Nancy Tegler.
Oh, okay, thanks, Nancy.
So I'm not understanding if there's not going to be stoplights. I don't understand how this is going to help with traffic at all, to help with being able to turn left or right.
So it's literally the help is taking the odd skew and making it more of a 90-degree angle. So it's a visibility. It's better defining visibility and expectation. So instead of if you were on 41st and get ready to make a left-hand turn, the traffic coming southbound on Beaver, they're going straight unless they're using the right turn indication and making a right turn on 41st. We're now, when you're trying to turn left from 41st today, I mean, it's a skewed angle looking back to try and make that turn to see if there's northbound Beaver Avenue traffic. So it's literally about better definition and better visibility. So in other words, if I'm this car in the picture right here, you can imagine trying to look back, try and see if say there's a car where the text of the Beaver Avenue is coming northbound, that I don't turn right into them. So it's literally better definition and better visibility is what it is what it's for.
But why not put stoplights in?
If we put stoplights where they're not warranted, then we actually unfortunately see disobedience of the stoplights and can actually see an increase in crashes, and also a risk of breaking down in operations, meaning the traffic signal could actually cause traffic to back up through Franklin, and then the traffic would break down. You'd have poor operations, to say the least. So,
But there are
so
poor operations now. It backs up onto 41st.
to get out of 41st, you're saying?
Yes, onto Beaver.
Yeah. And I'm saying if we put a signal there, there's even more traffic on Beaver, we would create even poorer operations on Beaver. And again, back to the kind of that defining that turn right now, there, if you're going southbound on Beaver and you want to continue going southbound on 41st, there's no slowing down, right? We're at least by making it a 90-degree, traffic would have to slow down and make a right-hand turn onto 41st Street. So,
Sure. Okay. Thank you.
yep, thank you. Okay. Thank you, Nancy. All right, let's see. We have Joe Schuler.
Yeah, hi Steve. Thanks so much. Yeah, I just wanted to chime in a little bit on that particular point about maybe more the pedestrian experience than anything, as Amy was alleging to, and Nancy was talking about a bit, just in the overall vibe of the space there. I'm at 1235 41st Street, and can also attest to the concrete medians here. Probably making some difference. Granted, I've only been here for a couple of years now. I kind of shudder to wonder what it was like before the concrete medians, because people certainly do still, feel like it's a drag strip down here sometimes. That understanding the circumstances of what's here at the intersection, and just the the um, the items that you need to work around with the existing businesses, the proximity to the existing traffic signal there at Franklin. I'm a big fan of roundabouts, and would love to have seen that work out, but I can understand why it didn't, for the same reason that a traffic signal would be too close. I just wonder, if there is, potentially a missed opportunity here to slow traffic down in some other ways, on top of, making the um, uh, behavior of the traffic on Beaver, more telegraphed to anybody waiting there at the intersection. And in lieu of, something physical there with the infrastructure to do that, if there's potentially something we could look at with some increased enforcement or overview of traffic speeds, not just there but in the area, which is maybe another conversation altogether. But some thoughts that I had kicking around just on the conversation here.
Appreciate that, Joe. And it is a challenge with the how do we calm traffic on our major streets, right? And so University, we took from a 4-lane to 3-lane. That's the step one, and that way, the hope is that the majority of people drive at a reasonable speed, and so then the 3-lane, at least those drivers try and control some of the more erratic drivers. That's not to say people don't get wild and use the turn lane to pass and that sort of thing. But and then also looking at street widths, right? And so right now we have a big wide stretch of pavement, and so hopefully by defining it, maybe tightening up a little bit will help some. But yeah, I didn't see you know, we didn't see opportunities, at least for the refuge islands that we have on University from a crossing standpoint, or where to just put them to control, kind of like tighten up the road and feel narrower, because frankly of the number of the driveways we have along, you know,
Mhm.
along corridor. We got a lot of small businesses along the corridor that I mean, they have to have a driveway access. And we did actually look at some alternatives that we didn't show, of like combining all the access points, but then that does make it a big challenge from a private standpoint and ownership standpoint and maintenance standpoint. If we were to say to combine a bunch of the driveways to make like a frontage road, and then that would allow us to close some of those and then maybe put a median for to kind of tighten up the road. But so that it just, the challenges we didn't quite, like, we didn't see any opportunities to put those. I do understand your point of, yeah, we're building a whole new curb system and sidewalk system, you know, here with redefining the road, but it's so that definitely the opportunities are there from a construction project standpoint, but we didn't see any opportunities to fit it in with with where all the driveways are, if that makes sense to.
For sure. Yeah, it
Yeah.
does. And, all this stuff is a series of trade-offs, right?
Yep.
And making the best of what you got. I will say that that work done on University there at 41st to narrow things, big fan of that.
Yeah.
And whether this or, future projects would love to see, special attention paid to, opportunities where we could do more of that.
Great. Thank you. Thank
Yeah,
you.
appreciate it. Thanks.
Okay. Mariana?
Yeah, hi. Thank you so much for doing this. I understand the visibility issue, and I think that that does look better. But I'm also seeing, I'm wondering about Snookies. Could that be a one-way in and then going out the north side onto the back? And like they said, Price Chopper, a right-hand turn. Otherwise, you've got people coming out of Snookies going right and left, coming out of Price Chopper going right and left, and people turning right and left off of 41st Street.
I'm just jotting these notes down. The Snookies, the alternatives for the Snookies, the one challenge is the ownership of properties are different. To the west, of them, it's owned by a local church, and so that's kind of some of the hurdles on reconfiguring their access points and also how they function. When uh, I'm an expert in malts. They have amazing malts, and so when I've go to get malts there, I pull in, as most of you know, and I pick it up on the south side of the building. So they have a circular motion of, my car is already heading east out toward Beaver. Today it's heading east into the kind of the Beaver 41st intersection. When we're done with this, it'll be heading east just into Beaver Avenue. There's certainly, if there were ways with the private property ownership to make it work, there certainly could be things that could be done within the site for circulation, but due to the different private property ownerships, it's that's kind of I guess the hurdle, if you will. So and then Price Chopper is kind of it's how they function now, but as I mentioned before, if there ever was a site redevelopment, we certainly would look to do some access changes on that site, to say the least. And it's just the way that they're set up now with their drive through under that carriage. It just didn't work out we would be hurting their access, I guess, if you will, to make changes now.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Okay. These are outstanding questions. I appreciate this. This is wonderful. And as Councilman Cole mentioned, it's awesome to see 50 some people attend. I know we tried to mail out lots of letters and we posted the message signs, and then our neighborhood associations, in my opinion, did an awesome job of sharing this. I saw this on their sites as well, and so this is awesome. I appreciate that so much to help us get the word out. So there's a lot of comments. I apologize I hadn't we have folks that are commenting on some of the different comments that made about whether there's stoplights, realignments. Someone asked about the taxpayer money. This project, and I think I mentioned this before, but this project, because the DOT has shown this to be a high potential for crash reduction, they have agreed with the concept, and they have awarded the city $450,000 in state funding, and the total project's $545,000. So to be honest, the DOT, when you say the taxpayer money, the DOT is helping us fund over 80% of this project essentially. So it's not, that's where the bulk of the funding is coming from, I guess, to answer the question of the taxpayer.
Steve, if there's no more questions, because I know some people joined late, a lot of people just want to make sure they understand the timing. Maybe
Yep.
go to that slide and just kind of remind people when everything's going to start and how long each section is.
Thank you, Councilman. Yep. And so just to kind of that recap, here's kind of the image of what the improvements will look like. We would be doing it in stages. You can see the different colors here. The blue would be first. And so the contractors indicated they may start in late March, early April, so coming very soon here. And they are to be done this fall. So I think Matt had estimated it's somewhere between 3 and 4 months of total duration. But we are maintaining access to all the businesses during construction. So during these phases, even though the blue is under construction, we'll still be able to access the businesses, along that western side of 41st, for example, including Snooki. So the businesses will have access, and so that's why it's being done in stages. Certainly, yes, we could do this faster if we just close the whole area down, but that doesn't work. We've got our businesses in this area, and so we're going to do it in stages to maintain access. And so that's why you see the different colors here. So again, about a 3 to 4 month project in total, but again, it will be done in stages to keep access to the businesses at all times. And then again, we anticipate the contractor may start in either late March or early April. I wish I could tell you the weather because, quite frankly, my youngest is playing baseball out. Well, he was playing baseball outside right now. And tomorrow night he certainly won't be. So not now, it's dark now, but he was playing between 5:30 and 6:30, my wife. And so tomorrow he certainly unfortunately won't be. So I can't predict the weather better than anybody. So but the contractor has indicated it's a contractor in roads. They are local, they're out of Des Moines, they're based out of Des Moines. That's leading the project contractor team there. So and I see a question, David Braun.
Yes, good evening. My connection went out at the end, so I had to rejoin, and I apologize if this question has been asked. But with the realignment, currently, there's some more open areas that I guess is within the city's right of way. Were there any considerations for like stormwater BMPs or other, green spaces to be used in those new or now open areas? Or is the city's intention to kind of convey those areas to the private property owners and businesses?
Great question, David. And actually, our Councilman Coleman had asked this when he met with us about this project. And the answer is really, to be honest, the vision is a mix. So in some cases where there's maybe a smaller piece, we would hope that there could be a conveyance to the adjacent property owners. But certainly the larger area that maybe you see in the south or the west, southwest corner here, there's a lot of opportunity on what is that, and we've had questions of tree planting um, to kind of like features that you mentioned, more nature type features. And so there is potential, David. It has not been determined at this point, just because there is the private. We've got it. We're working with the private property owners as well, and then certainly if there is something there, let's say it's a park like feature. There's got to be kind of who has it, who maintains it, what is it, that sort of thing. So I guess I don't know if that answers your question, but it's a great one, and that's what the councilman had also posed that as well, of what could be. So.
Yep, and just a brief follow-up too, because I know the owners of Snookies was asking, but if there are those opportunities, is there any plans from the city to either host, another public meeting or workshop or community surveys just to be engaging the local neighborhoods in the area?
If there's going to be a public space or that sort of thing, or would there be I'm sorry, David. Question: if it's going to be a public space, I think it would certainly be something where the city would work with. In this case, there's multiple neighborhood associations that come together here, and so it'd be starting from that point of, as well as the property owners, to see what it is, because there has to be an entity behind whatever it is. I don't know if that makes sense, but if it's like a park, right? If it's not a city park, then there has to be an entity behind, someone who takes care and owns the space, if you will. I don't know if that makes sense, but there certainly would be. It would start with engagement with the neighborhood associations, is what I would envision. But
understood. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. And I see Jim Tegler. I don't know if that's Nancy or Jim. I guess
Yes, it's Nancy again.
Nancy,
My question is this. So where Beaver curves there in front of Snookies, will this place the street farther away from Snookies now?
yes.
Oh, okay, good.
So it's quite a way. So that's kind of where the comments are. So you see where the new sidewalk is, and then this of space here, we probably should have colored it green and be like a parkway, just like this parkway.
Okay, good.
So it is pushing the road quite a ways away from Snookies. So that's why there was an opportune interest with Leslie asking about, well, geez, there's more space in front of our business, and again, I think, I mean, selfishly as a resident, the people congregate there, so it's more space for people. So
Yeah, good. Okay. Thank you. Just for safety, I was concerned about that. Okay, thank you.
thank you. Mhm. Great question.
We got a hand up, or Jim had his hand up.
That was Nancy. She just get up. Yeah, she just took it down. Yeah.
I'll just say, because people are interested, I've had questions from residents, nothing official from any association, but would there be public land available in here for neighborhood markers? Then the neighborhood associations have, often signs coming into neighborhoods, and is there, could there be public or private land made available to give Drake neighborhood, Waveland Park neighborhood, and Beaverdale neighborhood a chance to kind of mark the entrance to their neighborhoods?
Yeah, there certainly is a lot of potential. That's to say, that's at least on that. Yeah, thank you. I do see, I just want to pull a question. I'm trying to pull out questions. When says, why not recommend Snookies use the green lane? And I flipped it to the staging here. This is the staging because we have to build the entrances at separate times to make sure we keep access. But why not recommend Snookies use the green lane for entrance and red for their exit? The challenge would probably be that their operations. That'd be something we'd have to, how they take orders and people exit. And then he mentioned that the Choppers drive-through isn't really used anything as they don't load groceries anymore. Franklin's more useful than the drive-through exit, in my opinion. Yep. Thank you. I appreciate the thoughts. That's something that we've got to, like I said, as the use changes, there's opportunities to the private that we can work with the private stakeholders. We will certainly take that opportunity to try and look for access points on Beaver. There are limitations of what we can do with private property, and so. Okay, there was a question: is a pedestrian crossing an option further south on Beaver to allow pedestrians an alternative to access Price Chopper when crossing Beaver? We don't have a pedestrian crossing shown. Let me go to the drawing here. Sorry, whoops. South on Beaver. Again, some of the challenges is where the access points are for the private businesses. For example, even along the south side of Beaver, we need to maintain those access. So there isn't really the space to currently put a refuge island like we have on University to have a better ped crossing at that location. So. Amy?
Yeah, I would, on Hickman, they have a flashing light we can press. And then also on Beaver up near the Ace and Fairway, there's just a flashing light. There aren't actually refuge islands. Like the one on Hickman is just a button you can press and then it flashes, but there's no refuge islands because that section of Beaver is, you say there's not pedestrian activity. Well, there's a reason why, because and I'm thinking pedestrian, but there's also bicyclists that would access the east side of Beaver more often from the west side in this area if it wasn't quite so pedestrian unfriendly. So anyway, that was my thought, but because I come up from the south, if I'm below, I'm kind of halfway between Franklin and University, and now if I come up on 41st, I would just have to go further up to Franklin to feel safe about. I don't feel like you've solved the problem, but anyway, that was just my thought, that further south somewhere, that if pedestrians want to cut through, and it's not a stoplight, it's a flashing light that you press if you're a pedestrian. It's not there unless you. Anyway, thank you.
Nope.
Appreciate your work.
I appreciate the comments, and that's something we will certainly keep in monitor. I mean, the Hickman, I was thinking west of Martin Luther King Jr. Parkway, we did add a refuge with that light. The rectangular flashing beacons we do have to be selective in how we use those, and frankly, like on University, I do feel better that they have a refuge island, just to so that way you look for one way of traffic and then cross the refuge and then look for the other. Sometimes frankly, there's a little nervousness of the obedience of drivers with those. I don't want to just put them out there and create a false sense of security by, because you push a button and then the yellow rectangular rapid flashing beacons go. That sometimes can create a false sense of security. And so that's quite frankly why the ones you see us putting out there more recently, we have been including them a lot with either refuge islands or a tighter cross section. Maybe it's down to 2 lanes instead of even 3. And so again, the challenge here would be is where to put it with the orientation of the driveways, not only for Price Chopper, but the 2 businesses on the south side. But I certainly I get the comments and don't disagree that a pedestrian crossing of some sort in the future would be a benefit, or as well. Okay. All right. Any other last questions or comments? Matt, real quick, you mentioned that there'll be digital message boards that are put out before the project starts any the stages. Do you know roughly where those will be? Are they?
Yeah, so they'll be in this very similar spot to where we had the boards up for this meeting notice. It's right there. We have one for northwest traffic, which will be right by the Players Bar parking lot. And then we also have another one for the opposite direction on the right against 41st Street there by the Players parking lot.
Okay.
There was one there today or yesterday announcing the meeting. Thank you for that.
Yep, there should be one for each direction, right on each side of that Players parking lot, Players Bar parking lot.
All right. Well, seeing no further questions, I do want to remind everyone this meeting was recorded, so we will place it on the web page. And as I mentioned before, if you just go right to the project's map, and we will add a link to when you click on this project, as you see here, the map will be of the whole city, and we'll have projects all over. But if you zoom to this intersection, you can click there and go to the actual page where the recording will be. We got to download it, so it's not up right. It won't be up right now. But you can watch this video later. Certainly, if there's any other questions, please don't hesitate to contact the engineering department. We've got Matt Rademacher, project engineer, on here as well, or ask for myself. So if you think of comments or questions or concerns later. So that being said, Councilman Coleman, do you have anything closing before we part?
Just a final thank you. And somebody asked where the Zoom presentation would be housed on the website. I assume it's on the project page, and maybe you can show how to link to that as the final slide. Steve, go back to that.
Yep.
First or
And
second
so I
slide.
apologize. So if you just go, that's a good question. If you just go to the main city webpage, this is probably the easiest way to get to it. Is you'll click on this project's link here, and then when you zoom into this project on the map, you can click actually on this yellow icon, and it will pull up this window. I apologize, I have it screenshotted, but you actually will be able to like scroll down, and there'll be a link to the project web page, which will have this Zoom recording on there. So and so that's where we'll find it, and we'll work to share it with our neighborhood associations. Maybe that's the way too that can also be the link could be shared as well. So thank you. All right. Well, thank you, everyone. I really appreciate everyone's time, and I'm very grateful for our Councilman Coleman, our Mayor Bozen, and all our council members who helped to get the word out. I'm grateful for our neighborhood associations. You did an awesome job sharing this. Thank you. I was so flattered to see this on your pages. And so thank you all for your time, and please have a wonderful night. Thank you so much. Appreciate y'all.